Okay, hello to the cousins brothers at third phase of moon. Today I'm going to be telling about two abduction experiences I had that really were adventures. I didn't feel abducted at all. And I'd like to begin by saying this is a Creative Commons, open for anybody at any time. And other than that, a bit of background, I'd like to say that my take on interacting with these grays is that they're somehow some kind of an advanced, like a worker ant, biological robotic creatures, but as I'll explain today, they did express emotions on both of my visitations. So I should also say that I didn't remember the first experience at all until I had the second experience, and after that is when I remembered the first experience. And each one, there were emotions expressed by these creatures. Okay, so the, the, the second one happened in the winter of 92, 93 in Seattle, and I was spending the night with a girlfriend. And in the middle of the night, it was all of a sudden this blast of white light all around the window. There was a curtain on the window, but from every place that wasn't covered from the curtain, it was this amazing amount of very bright light. And I sat up, I got up onto my knees on the bed, and my girlfriend was completely knocked out, sleeping. And so all of a sudden, I'm just completely amazed by this phenomenon that's happening. And the next thing I know, I'm floating through space. And by that time, I realize I'm being taken up to a spacecraft. I'm floating through space naked, and I can see a spacecraft in the distance. And as I was coming up, I thought I was going into that spacecraft, but all of a sudden, at the end, the forces turned me to go backwards, and I went into another spacecraft behind me that I didn't see. So all of a sudden, I'm in this spacecraft. It was maybe, about 30, 35 feet in diameter, and there was light radiating from everywhere. It was circular. There was no one light. It's just like everything emitted light, and there was plenty of light to see very clearly inside. And I was sitting on kind of a low bench, and right across from me were two grays, and these were the grays that were 4 to 5 feet tall, something like that. They weren't the smaller ones. And they were directly across from me, I think standing behind a counter, kind of. And they were looking at me, and I looking at them, and I said to them just like this, I said, "Hi, what are your names?" And when I said that, they both looked at each other and expressed complete shock. They were completely shocked that I was so totally unafraid. And they told me their names telepathically. The male's name I forgot immediately, but the female's name I remembered in the morning when I returned home to my girlfriend's house, but I didn't write it down, and I lost that name. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and I asked them what their names were, and then shortly after that I looked to my left, and this little boy came walking out of I don't know where. I didn't see him climb any stairs or anything. I didn't see him like just appear, but the first thing I saw, he was walking over towards me. And being the old flower child that I am, I immediately went down on one knee and held the little boy and gave him a hug. We didn't communicate, just gave him a little hug. And the next thing I know, I'm back in Seattle at my girlfriend's house, and I woke her up and started telling her this whole amazing story that had just happened to me. And as I was telling her the story, I realized that this must have been my son. And when I realized that, a few minutes later, I just had this feeling that I should give him a name. And because I'm from a Scandinavian background, the name that came to me was Jan. And I thought, Jan, yeah, that feels good. That felt right. And a few minutes later, it came to me to call him Yonder. And that even felt better because obviously he is from the great yonder that we don't know about. At any rate, while I was telling her this story, I I began remembering that I had been taken up once before, several years before. And that time I figured out later was the winter of 88, 89. And during that adventure, the first thing I remember was I was spiraling up into space with these two grays. They were probably the same two. I don't know, they all look the same. So anyway, I'm spiraling up in what I'm assuming I'm going to go up into a spacecraft again. And as I'm spiraling up, they telepathically said to me that they're giving me one wish, any wish I want. And when they said that to me, I immediately said, oh, I want my grandmother to live a long, happy life. And when I said that, once again, they were shocked. They expressed emotion, looked at each other. They were like blown away that I would give one wish from extraterrestrials to my grandmother. And so then they expressed to me telepathically, they said like, oh, that's really sweet, really touching, but your grandmother is getting ready to transition soon. And so, yeah, I must have been in some kind of special realm of consciousness, because if somebody would have told me my grandmother's going to be dying in a few years, I would have been very upset. She was the mother figure in my life. But when they told me that, I just said, oh, well, okay. And then I thought about it for a couple minutes as we're spiraling up, and then I said, well, then I'd like to be balanced and centered. My rationale was that whatever's going to be coming at me in my life in the future, if I'm balanced and centered, I'm in a better position to deal with whatever may come. And I must say that as soon as that happened, my life, it was as if someone put the pedal to the metal, and everything started speeding up incredibly. So now, jumping back to this, to my second adventure, which was the first one I remembered, as I just said, I gave this boy, my son, the name of Yonder. Well, about 6 months later, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that DER, D-E-R, are my initials. Literally, and I didn't think about it at all until like 6 months later. So this little boy is called Yawn, D-E-R, and that really blew me away. So he's actually got, he's named after me in some sort of a way. So that's it from here. Hope people find this interesting. That's all for now. Bye-bye. Okay. I hope.